Still on this morning on ITV, broadcasting live this 20th day of January 2022 from Mpape Hill here in Abuja. And we are cruising on that program, Nationalism and You. On this discussion segment, we're going to be taking a look at the implementation of the TSA, the Treasury single account, and the continuous report about leakages in federal government revenue. And with me in the house to take a look at this topic is Dr. Ibrahim Menasara Kogo Umar.
It's my honor to be with you here. Good morning.
Dr. Ibrahim Menasara is an advocate for good governance and a socio-political analyst. You are welcome to Nationalism and You.
Thank you very much.
In the first place, let me ask you, what does nationalism and you means to you? How would you put it in perspective?
Well, it talks about the in-depth spirit of patriotism that every citizen is supposed to have, the love for the country, the spirit of the common brotherhood he is having within the commonwealth of the combination of the diverse people, diverse culture, diverse tradition that makes up the polity called Federation of Nigeria. In other words, somebody should put the interest of the commonality of the progression of all the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria above his parochial, selfish, personal interest.
Thank you very much. It couldn't have been better defined. Treasury single account.
Yes.
When this account was introduced, the implementation was introduced by President Muhammadu Buhari, we suppose that it will help to block a lot of leakages, and incessantly thereafter we began to hear that due to the single treasury account, we have been able to secure some 25 billion. We have been able to secure some 600 billion, and the rest of it has again resulting from the implementation and things of that nature. But for some time now, we've not been hearing about those boasts any longer. What has gone wrong?
Well, first of all, I think the TSA got introduced by, the credit should first of all go to His Excellency President Goodluck Jonathan. It was his government that started it, and then this government continued. It is essentially a mechanism to checkmate corruption in the bureaucratic operations of government activities in Nigeria. Essentially speaking, it is in order to reduce wastages. It has succeeded, first of all, in detection of ghost workers. It has succeeded again in detection of instances of multiple payments over one particular subject matter. It has equally succeeded in, tracking the degree of efficiency with which we run government activities in Nigeria. Now, somehow, somewhere, if you remember, I think a few years ago, there were controversies regarding some people eating fat out of this novel idea of TSA. Some people getting commissions. Even the matter went to the level of the National Assembly. It was a subject of a lot of controversial discussions in the country. I do not know how they resolved that one. And then secondly, there were hues and cries over some people manipulating the information technology acumen they are having in order to be using digital style of siphoning some government money using the same TSA. And then again, when you look at the TSA operations vis-a-vis the governmental system we used to have, a system whereby governmental operations are subjected to auditing periodically. A system whereby governmental activities are subjected to due process of accountability, correct procurement processes, and then due diligence to budgetary expenses, budgetary provisions. You discover that TSA normally subvert that. Then TSA as well came with a lot of problems that led to some industrial tensions. For example, some institutions kicked against it. The academic sector, for example, the medical sector, for example, all these and so many other groups kicked against it. That the template it embodied did not encompass and encapsulate some of the critical components of their activities. For example, the issue of visiting lecturership. For example, the issue of peer review activities among the lecturers. For example, the issue of sandwich programs, affiliation activities, and this. So, and then as well the issue of internationalization of knowledge within the academia cycle. So these things and so many other problems came about. Then we heard of fire incidents at the office of the National Treasury House, the office of the National, what do you call it? The Accountant General of the Federation. And nobody heard about it. Did it affect the TSA system? Did it not affect? We didn't hear of any probe set up. We didn't hear what the nation has lost as a result of that Gangantum fire incident. We didn't hear anything about that. And I do not know whether that one has hampered the TSA operations or it has not hampered the TSA operations. But since then, you did not hear much about
progressing from there. You will recall that it is said that the TSA actually is not a national innovation. It was a recommendation by the World Bank and IMF that nations should embrace the single treasury account and the rest of it. Then the past government had a look at it. They knew that many government departments were having as much as 40 accounts
yes.
in various commercial banks and things of that nature. And there was so much depravity to the central government, the federal government, through such circumventions and duplicities of account and things of that nature,
yes.
through which money were being siphoned. The government before President Muhammadu Buhari lacked the courage to implement the TSA. He came in, he implemented it, and we have been celebrating that this will help to block leakages. But as we are progressing, we realize that the leakages are continuing. Is it a problem of system being circumvented by the practitioners in it, or a problem of lack of technicality to monitor implementation, or what do you call it, reluctance to monitor the implementations by special units that's supposed to monitor the implementation or combination of
No. Fundamentally speaking, it is a novel idea, the idea of the TSA, and like you said, it's a recommendation, and Nigeria as a sovereign nation, we decide to embrace it. But the reason why you will see a very serious gap between institutional policies and the expected service delivery essentially is because every institution is like a human body. It is made up of three components: the body, the soul, and the spirit. Every institution. The body is that establishment. You have the assemblage of the law, you have the office there, you have the bureaucratic and the technical components there set up. That is the body. Then the soul is the governmental backing. The governmental backing. We need it or we don't need it. The governmental backing. Are the top bureaucrats of the nation prepared to embrace it? Are they really prepared to subject themselves to whatever harsh things that will come of it in the overall interest of national progression? Are they? That is this in the soul. Then the spirit has to do with the technical ability and the know-how in the brains of those chief executives, as well as the management components that are to drive it to progression. You understand? So if you don't have this, the combination of the three, definitely speaking, if you, for example, appoint somebody to drive a policy on the altar of either nepotism, or on the altar of one primordial affinity or the other, or on the altar of mere impunity, or on the altar of anything, to the jettison of the national interest of competence, national interest of professionalism, national interest of track of records of the person before that time, then definitely speaking, you are compromising the ultimate in court progress we are expected to drive from that institutional mechanism. That is one. Secondly, if there are no checks and balances, for example, you set up an institution, you allow it to go like that, there should be a template of periodic review. When you set up a system, you should be able to ask whosoever you want him to be the chief executive, what are the expected deliverables that the nation should expect from your own existence? What are the things you are going to innovate new that the other person steering the ship of that place was not able to achieve? What are these? You should be able to give you his own words of bond, so that on that you will be able to take him, on that you will be able to set targets and performance evaluation mechanism, so that within 3 months, within 6 months, within 1 year, you will be able to now see. And then you should be able to have the disposition of patriotism and the discipline to really calibrate his performance in tandem with the expected projection that you have given him, so that if he is not doing well, you should be able to penalize him, you should be able to flush him, you should be able to send him to the appropriate anti-corruption mechanisms for them to evaluate whether or not he is culpable or not. But in a situation whereby you appoint somebody, you leave him, the tenure finishes. For example, the Accountant General's tenure has finished long ago. It has finished, and you didn't you didn't get someone else. Do you mean out of 210 million Nigerians, nobody else is competent to fill up the vacant shoe? And then you leave people, they are continuing there. Somebody's tenure has expired, years over, he's continued to be there. It means indirectly, by your body language, you are saying, I am 100% satisfied with his performance, whether or not the decision is wrought or not. So at the end of it, even if you send auditors to go and investigate, by virtue of that, your body language, you have already indicated the direction where you want the pendulum to swing, and definitely you know what would be the expected result. So it is not so much importation of a policy and then establishing it with the mechanism, whether it's a governmental policy, pronouncement, or a law. It is not so much what will give you the outcome. What will give you the outcome is beyond that. You have to have the trinity of the body, the soul, and the spirit in tandem, working consciously and seriously towards the directional compass of the nation's interest for development and progression.
Thank you very much. Now, progressing from there, the president, in no doubt, wants to see those leakages blocked. And that was why he made haste to courageously implement, call for the implementation of the TSA. In your view, Doctor, which are the basic institutions that ought to implement the TSA, both spirit, body, and soul, as you put it?
Well,
which are the basic institutions?
Well, the first institution is the legislature, first of all. The legislature is the one having the responsibility to make laws for the good governance and stability and progression of the country. They have the power under Sections 4, Sections 11, Sections 58, Section 59, Section 8, and Section 9 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The legislature is the first one. And then the legislature, for them to be able to do any law that will really support this very important noble policy, they have to put the interest of the nation over and above their own individualistic interest. There are so many accusations. For example, the issue of the jumbo pay of the legislature is really not in tandem with the economic reality of present-day Nigeria. There are institutions like Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission. There is Salaries and Wages Commission. There is Office of the Accountant General, Accountant General of the Federation itself as the DC. And then there is the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation. And then there is Budget Office. There is budget office. Whatever you will do must be predicated upon the national plan. What are the plans for the nation? What is the plan for 2022? What is the plan for the next 5 years? What is the plan for the next 10 years? What is the plan for the next 20, 50 years? We have, in those days, we used to have developmental plans. We used to have rolling plans. We used to have all these kind of plans. But nowadays, even the budgeting system, we really need to be serious about budgeting system. You now bring about envelope system, whereby, for example, I just give you 50 million naira. I say this is the budget for your operations for so year, and then I give you template. Cascade it and break it down in tandem with the template, and then you now do it. It is wrong. Budget cannot be prepared from the bottom from the top to the bottom. It is normally from the bottom. Budget is prepared upwards. You have to go to meet people at the clerical level. They tell you their needs because they are the field officers. Then you meet people at the managerial level to analyze the efficacy, the seriousness and the desirability of those needs, and then they take it to the top management level, and then from there at the executive level, and then from there you now take it at the ministerial level, like that. It develops so that the practical reality of the needs and expectations of those that are supposed to be the drivers of the budget would not be taken into cognizance, rather than just government to go there and work it out in tandem with the legislature, who will now end up even making unnecessary inclusions in form of pardons for some selfish contractual considerations there in the budget. And then with the moment it is signed, it has become law. You have to predicate the development of the nation in tandem with that. So when you are talking about TSA, it is not just so much about payment of salaries. No, the entire gamut of governmental activities, the payment for services, the revenue generation, collection of revenue, payment of international obligations, as per section 19 of the Constitution, payment of domestic obligations, payment to states, payment to this, the totality of it. And another fundamental thing is that based on the governmental structure of Nigeria as per sections 2 and 3 of the Constitution, whenever you want to plan any policy that has to do with the economy, there should be uniformity of purpose. In other words, policies should cascade from the federal distance to the state down to the local government, because we are having a trinity kind of structure in governance. So you have to have uniformity. If you have it at the federal level and at the state level, you didn't ask the states to embrace it. You have the National Economic Council. You have so many forums under section 153 of the Constitution that you now meet and symbiotically try as much as possible to have commonality of possible with the governors. And then you should be able to really transcend it down to the citizenry by practicalizing section 7 of the Constitution that talks about autonomy for the local government. In a situation whereby all the monies of the local government are emasculated under the paradoxical doctrine of joint account by the state governors, really is not healthy for Nigeria's development projection, because you will only see that this thing being practiced at the apex level, but at the middle and the lower level, nothing like that.
I didn't hear you mention the central bank in the basic institutions that ought to implement the TSA. Central bank as the custodians of monetary policies, what role do they have to play?
They have so many, they have a lot of roles, but I'm really not comfortable with the way central bank currently is operating. Under section 16 of the Constitution that talks about the economic objective of the country, we have a robust responsibility. First of all, central bank is supposed to be the banker of all the banks in Nigeria. It is supposed to bring the advisor of the government on economic policies. It is supposed to bring robust developmental blueprint on how the nation should project itself, how the nation should develop within the period of this year, next year, 10 years, and the rest. But if you look at it, the way the activities of the central bank is going, it is wrong that we have central bank that is advising the government to consistently be taking loans from this international community. It is really not healthy. Secondly, it is not good the way central bank is allowing Naira to keep galloping, to keep collapsing the value of Naira vis-a-vis the international currencies without doing anything. Rather, they turn themselves into a social investment mechanism whereby they are only the channel through which disbursements for social investment programs and policies should be done. No, general economic policies and regulations, not just keeping of the money and
Doctor,
sanitization.
Doctor, on a quick note, it is not all about negativity against TSA. We want our public to get it right. The TSA being a very good policy that it is intended to block some leakages, if possible, block all the leakages and the rest of it. And many people have argued that since the implementation of the TSA by this government is the reasons why, unlike before, when we were selling crude oil for $130, $142 and the rest of it, and yes, we couldn't pay salaries and pensions. Under this government, salaries, pensions, and we have not had cries of unpaid salaries in states as it were resonating in more than 29 states in the government before they came in and the rest of it. Some people have attributed the capacity of government to pay salaries and continue to pay bills to this TSA. But what they are saying is that the leakages have not been so effectively blocked to the extent that the money available to government in form of revenues are being substantially depleted through activities of unscrupulous elements in the system. Your take on this?
Well, fiscal discipline is what is missing. When there is deficiency in fiscal discipline, you understand. TSA is an excellent innovation for fiscal discipline. But where you have it only a part out of the components of the federation, that is the reason why I'm talking of the synergy, the harmony.
Holistic
you understand? There is one important body, even though it's not a finance or fiscal body, that has critical role to play in that context. The Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. In 1985, the name of the office got changed from Office of the Secretary to the Federal Government to Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. And up to now, politicians and the citizenry do not know the definition, the differences between the two. The Office of the Secretary to the Federal Government means you are the Secretariat of the government at the federal level. But Secretary to the Government of the Federation means you are the coordinating secretariat for the activities of the government at the federal level, at the federal and at the state level, at the federal, at the state, and at the local government level, symbiotic relationship between the state and the local government, between the state and the federal government, so that there will be uniformity in policies, programs, and executions mechanism, so that whatever will be discussed at the level of the Federal Executive Council, for example, the states will be having the privilege of discussing whether the secretaries to state government whether the governors themselves, with the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, because there are 5 components under the office there. The relevant one I'm talking here is the Cabinet Secretariat. The Cabinet Secretariat should be able to get their inputs. Governors, Your Excellencies, we are discussing these things next week or upper week or in the next 1 month. Please go and discuss and then get us your own position, so that whenever any policy now comes on board, you will not see any dissenting voice, so that the doctrine of uniformity in governance will be seen in the Federation of Nigeria. So it is important that the Secretary to the Government of the Federation should evolve these periodic symbiotic meetings with the governors, with the local government. He should see his office as an office that is having step in all this.
Maybe it would be easier if they coordinate with this secretary to the state government, because we also have secretary to state governments now.
Because of the doctrine of the independence. Okay. You understand? The governor is the chief executive officer, just like the president is the chief executive officer under Section 130 at the federal level. So tell the governor it is the discretion of the governor either to make himself or to appoint his secretary, or to even appoint commissioner for economy, whatever is it. You understand? Give them the leverage. By the time you said it is Mr. So-so, this points of political accusations will come again. They will say, this. So give them the privilege, give them the leverage to independently nominate whosoever they would like to. And then apart from that, TSA, the central bank, should really be in the office of the Accountant General of the Federation, the office of the Budget Office, the office of National Planner, the office of Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, NFIU, yes. You understand. And then the anti-corruption relevant agencies and bodies. These offices should work out, a sort of a symbiotic kind of framework, whereby they will be able to be looking at the distance periodically, the successes, the deficiencies, the problems, the projections, something, so that they will be able to be taking comparative peer review mechanism on the progression and the areas of problems, the areas of challenges. If possible, they should even be linking up with some countries that are practicing the same TSA to see what are the magics that they are doing, and of course when they return they should panel beat it to see the internal peculiarities of Nigerian nation state. So that at the end of it everybody will be ready. But the most important driving force is the spirit. The politicians must be prepared to really be ready to subject themselves to fight against corruption. They must be prepared to do that. If they are prepared to do that, one, because it is a mechanism to checkmate corruption and excesses, they should be prepared to take whatever is it. They should be prepared to adjust and change their characters and their temperaments towards this type of policy. That is how it looks.
Doctor, we are a nation of over 200 million people.
Yes.
We are having, what do you call it, GDP of approximately 450 billion.
Yes.
We have Brazil, 1 trillion, 448 billion GDP, with a population of almost the same. 200 million,
yes.
And the rest of it. We have Iran. Islamic Republic of Iran is having 1.1 trillion in GDP. The reason why we are raising the issues of leakages, outrageous bleeding of government revenues by operators in the system is that Nigeria GDP ought not to be lesser than 1 trillion if we must defeat all of these multifaceted security challenges we are facing. Recently, Doctor, the president, after there was an exposition of stamp duties on remitted money, they said the stamp duty money, if you are even in your mashalashi, they are deducting stamp duty from your phone by all the banks in Nigeria. A consultant was able to expose that over 20 trillion is not remitted to the federal government account.
Yes.
You have just raised an issue of CBN encouraging government are borrowing. The consultant even said the CBN are helping to round trip the what do you call it, the stamp duties money as a loan back to government and things of that nature through capitalist unscrupulous elements.
Just like they have taken the pension money of the innocent.
The president, in his good character that is known to all Nigerians, appointed the consultant and said, go all out, recover the 20 trillion. Let a separate account be open for it in the CBN in line with the single treasury account policy and things of that nature. The central bank has been blocking this fellow from operating, despite the fact that the man succeeded in actually recovered the 20 trillion and the rest of it. And it is not all about the recovery, because the president wants him to also work on other areas where leakages are happening and that kind of thing. What is the way forward?
The way forward is the president to be prepared to be penalizing. There is serious culture of brazen, deliberate refusal to penalize wrongdoing in the country. That system must be changed. The president should not only be talking, but should walk the talking. He said he is a man of transparency and anti-corruption crusader, this. It shouldn't just remain by mere pronouncement. It should be by action. For example, if you take the anti-graft agency, EFCC, all the chief executives of ICPs from inception until now got removed on account of corruption charges. Tell me one of them that has ever been prosecuted. And there are hundreds of reports from the National Assembly's panels of investigations. They have been setting up investigations. They have been inviting chief executives. There are reports over reports. And at the end of it, all these reports are there for executive to implement. None of them has been implemented. There are hue and cry over corruption charges over ministers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. None of them has been subjected to investigation, talk less of prosecution.
So your last
So
message,
even the central bank governor, you understand? My last message is, unfortunate time is our enemy,
yes.
Yeah, but my last message is that the government should walk the talk.
And block all the leakages
so that
we can live and
exactly. And then even the revenue generation agencies, for example, Federal Revenue Service, Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, Customs Service, all of them, when they are given targets and they refuse to perform up to the target, remove their chief executives and penalize them.
Thank you very much. We can go on and on, but time is not our friend.
Yes.
Let us block all the leakages.
Yes.
We can. Where there is a will, there is always a way. Thank you for being with us and for always keeping faith with us. I remain your host on Nationalism and You until we come back to you next week, Thursday, Ebenezer Oyetakin. But for now, please don't change the channel because you have loads of activities and informations, educating ones coming on your way on ITV. And certainly, you know, ITV is the best.